What's up, guys? It's Chris with the Strength Coach Collective podcast. Our podcast is aimed at strength coaches to kind of help them to improve their craft and deliver better client outcomes. If you want to find out more about us, you can visit us at strengthcoachcollective.com. Today, we're thrilled to welcome legendary strength coach Dan John to the podcast. Dan has decades of experience coaching everyone from elite athletes to everyday people, and he's renowned for his ability to simplify training principles and focus on what really works. He's the author of game-changing books like Easy Strength and Never Let Go, which have become essential reads for coaches worldwide. Easy Strength is one of my personal favorites. Known as the coach's coach, Dan's philosophy emphasizes simplicity, consistency, and delivering real-world results. Dan, thank you so much for taking time to come and speak to us. Welcome.
Well, thank you. After that intro, I'll try not to screw things up too much, okay?
So let's jump right in. So your books and philosophy often emphasize simplicity in programming. Why do you think simplicity is so powerful?
Well, I think most of the stuff I see is crap. I mean, I don't want to point out specific books, but I have a vast library. I mean, I've got magazines from books. It's interesting. I have books from 110 years ago, not reprints, the actual books from 110, 115 years ago. I have magazines that go from the 30s to yesterday or whenever, we stopped getting magazines. And as I look over most of the stuff I see nowadays, it's just pure crap. I mean, it's just, I'll write a workout and someone will ask me, well, what's the rest period? I'll be like, how would I know? I mean, the rest period after a 314-pound snatch is a bit of time. That's my best snatch. You can't snatch 314 for 30 reps in a workout. I guess somebody can, I can't. I mean, what is a rest period after? I mean, some that happens every single day. What's the optimal time after a woman gives birth for them to go back to work? Well, gosh, Well, for those of you who are parents, it's like, wow, that really depends, doesn't it? I mean, whether it's if it's a 19-year-old woman or a woman in her 40s, completely different story. When I say things like that, I hope you go, well, that's pretty obvious, and yet, a 1-minute rest period, for you and a 1-period rest period for somebody else listening, they're both 60 seconds, but it really depends on a lot of factors. So I like to keep things simple because that's real. With my, I work with some really good discus throwers, and, at first they balk when I give them a program. Very often, this time of year, there's 2 exercises. There's the Olympic snatch, the squat snatch, and there's the suitcase carry. And if you haven't been around for the past 2 years, working with them, 5 years, you'll go, well, that's simple. And I'll be like, well, yeah, we've done this the last 5 years. We've gotten rid of everything that's in the way of their success. And hopefully, we're preparing them for this track meet that's outside. When the biggest thing I think I do that helps me on this, Chris, is I give everything grades, and the grades are A, B, C, and F. An A grade, and it's all cost to benefit ratio, okay? So an A grade exercise, supplement, food, recovery program, tiny investment in time, treasure, and talent, okay? For me, with my business, I think of royalties. I wrote this book, in 2007 called Never Let Go. I still get money every month for it. And it's like, well, that's an A grade, man. I don't do anything and I get a check for it, I would say the Olympic lifts are kind of A grades if you know how to do them done correctly. So not a ton of investment. Well, I mean, of course, you have to build up to it. I have no issue. You don't just write a book in 6 minutes, But over time, it's a very small investment with very big returns. For me, big grades are kind of things you get out what you put in. I always joke, fiber is the classic B grade. The more fiber you eat, let's just say it's an open system. What you put in, you get out. I put the power lifts kind of there. If you're spending a lot of time in the power lifts, as an athlete, you're probably getting what you got out of those. C grades, so if we're using this, I love to use test tubes. So what you get is what you get, the cost to benefit. And in C grades, to me, are those little experiments, those little, I'm trying a new idea right now. It's great. I love it. Sometimes a C grade is I go to a workshop or I take a class. I still take classes. I take writing classes, I take poetry classes, I take a class on fermenting food. And, the investment's here. But you know what? Sometimes, like, for example, I'd say with Brett Contreras' hip thrust, I was shown that at the Olympic Training Center in '84. And then, I was up in Canada and they call that the glute bridge. And then one day at a workshop, he takes me aside and shows it to me. Well, it was a small exercise, but now it's one of my most important exercises. So sometimes a C grade can turn into an A grade. And then F grades, and we all have friends who are F grades. They eat up all your time, all your treasure, all your talents, and you get nothing back. And so for me, when I go through things, when I look at a nutritional tweak, the first thing I do is I try to give it a grade. I think fasting, for example, is pretty impressive. You take 16 hours, 24 hours, and you don't eat. And the interesting thing about that is a lot of people realize how much time and energy they focus on making meal decisions. I'm a big menus and shopping lists. But if you don't have a shopping list and a menu based on a shopping list based on the menu, and you, like, I know exactly in the store over here, every single place where the stuff on my shopping list is. It's real. If you say to me, oh, and then and you have some, what would be a tough one? Water chestnuts. Oh, bring me a can of water chestnuts. My 10-minute shop will become an hour and a half because I don't know where they keep water chestnuts. And
Right.
So for me, when I sit down and I look over the big picture of things, I'm going to try to sprinkle my athletes and myself with as many A grades as we can. In nutrition, I would say protein water would be A grades. It'd be kind of hard to live long without protein and water. When it comes to, weirdly, sleep is more of a B grade, because it is an 8-hour commitment. That's a long, but teaching yourself how to meditate might be an A grade, especially if that's something you need. So I think, I like to keep things simple, but it doesn't mean it's not hard. I've got this one workout where it looks so simple, but it's like when people do it, they're exhausted. 3 clean and jerks at a weightlifting meet. It's funny. I go to an Olympic lifting meet and they only give me 3 clean and jerks. And yet when I put down that last one, I am toast for days and sometimes weeks, depending on how big the meet is. So, so when I write down today's workout as 3 clean and jerks, but the third one is to win the nationals, it's a little bit different than, I don't know, doing wrist curls, 5 sets of 8, followed by reverse wrist curls, followed by Zottman curls, followed by concentration curls, followed by curls, and curls. That's an easy workout compared to a max clean and jerk, followed by even heavier clean and jerk, followed by I got to win this with a clean and jerk. Does that answer it?
It does. So, kind of what I heard you say to summarize was that it is very case by case dependent on the athlete, the individual, the person that you're training, knowing that our audience deals with more of a group dynamic and more of a general population. How do you think coaches can apply this principle to get better results? So, like, as an example, I look at and understand, and I've been in the strength and conditioning field for 20 years. And I remember when I first read Easy Strength, my initial thought was, that's it. That's all I have to do. But then by the end of the week, if you've done the protocol, 4 to 5 workouts for that week, you've accumulated a lot of volume. So how do our coaches get better results for their clients in more of a group setting?
The first thing you got to do is you got to take, okay, let's just say it's an hour, here's your circle of time, okay? And I think the mistake a lot of places do is that, I'm a big believer, and this is something I picked up from Jeff Hemingway, Mark Fisher, is I do think at every workout, in a group setting, it is communal. So you got to take a moment to make sure everyone has a chance to introduce themselves. So one of the things I like is I like to have a recognizably a warm up. So if we're on we're on a 1 hour clock. Okay. So just work with me. The first 15 minutes should be the warm up and introductions. Okay. So, so what you want to do there is you want to get in and you want to have a kind of a packaged warm up that everybody comes in and the thinking is pretty low level. So if you got new people in there, they can just go like this and see everybody else doing it right. Now, how you do that, I mean, it can be as simple as I like original strength. Tim Anderson's great idea. So we're going to do 6-point rocks, neck nods. We're going to do marching in place where we slap our, right hand hits the left knee, left hand hits the right knee, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7 minutes of this general warm up. And then we stop. This is a good time to get a little water. And then I'm going to say, okay, I like this. Jeff taught me this, is you always basically say you have to answer 3 questions. What's your name? Today will be how old you are and what's your favorite breakfast cereal. Okay. So I'm Dan, I'm 68 and I love Raisin Bran. Well, okay, we all laugh, and the guy over there goes, I like Raisin Bran. Or you say, today you got to say your name, your astrological sign, and the best movie you saw last year. Okay, I'm Dan, I'm a Virgo, and I love the holdovers. And all of a sudden, someone next to you goes, hey, I like the holder. Well, instantly you've bonded those 2 people who both like the holdover, and those 3 people are all Virgos. Are you following me? And it's just
Yep.
And after that, then when I'm looking at a workout with a group, the number one thing I do, I use the image of life itself. So I like group workouts to you start on the ground, just like you do when you're born. You crawl around, you move around the ground a little bit, you get up to half kneeling, then in the middle of the workout. So once we've gone through that introduction, then maybe we get back on the floor, we do some I don't know, whatever floor exercises you think are appropriate. That's why the Turkish get up is kind of a nice one in the beginning. If you do that, I have an exercise called the get back up, which is fine. After that, maybe you get on half kneeling and everyone does half kneeling presses or something like that, And then I like to have the workout in a group in the middle, because in the middle of life is when you're also most vibrant. So in my workouts, that might be a good time for the humane burpee. We could do the armor building complex. We could do, if you're a barbell gym, it's a good time to do barbell complexes. And right now you're dosing what everybody wants to do when they get to the gym. People want to get hot and sweaty when they go to the gym. The least valuable part of most people's workouts is getting hot and sweaty. What most people need is some level of hypertrophy work and some level of mobility work, joint mobility, and probably strength. But once you give them the hot and sweaty, that humane burpee, which is a hard workout, but easily adaptable in big groups. After that, then we might work on technical issues. Now that they're hot and sweaty, their ears are open to go over technical issues. Okay. After we work, and by the way, working on technique can be exhausting. Practicing the hinge movement or practicing squats in a group. When you go through, maybe you start with 6-point rocks, you move into the goblet squat, you have a stick, you do goblet squats followed by overhead squats. Even though I'm only using a broomstick, I'm exhausted at the end of the goblet squat, overhead squat drill. It's exhausting because you're using so many things. From there, then I would probably start, because I don't want my people leaving the gym looking like axe murderers. Generally, I like to have something nice at the end, some kind of return to mobility, some kind of maybe even flexibility work. And I'm a big believer, and this comes in the yoga tradition, but having everyone lay on the floor, it can be a 1-minute meditation. It can be, in yoga, they call it savasana, the corpse pose. But just a chance to go, and then the group setting's done. That's how I run group classes.
That's really interesting. So one of the coaches in my gym, we've had a location for 15 years, and Saturday workouts have become like a tradition because for the last 5 minutes, he turns off the lights, he puts on yoga music, and people literally, they look forward to it. But I did have a question about something that you mentioned. So something I find interesting, a lot of group gyms that I've been to or seen run their workouts almost the same way, but it sounds like you almost feel that doing the we'll say the hot and sweaty part is better done prior to the technical lift. But the question I had specifically for you is,
Let's get back to the clock. So the
yeah,
first 15 minutes are that warm up and introduction.
right.
The last couple of minutes. So if for those of you just listening, I'm gonna use my hands to pretend I'm an analog clock, as now as we say. The last 5, 10 minutes are transitioning away. So that's the flexibility, mobility, meditation. But that, if you're looking at your standard, I'm looking at my watch right here, basically from about 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 on the numbers on my watch, that would be the hot, sweaty part. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So why do you think people nowadays, and I would say, I mean, because I obviously have not been coaching as long as you, but I've noticed over the last 10 years, maybe a little bit prior to, why is it that everyone equates a good workout to how much you sweat?
Because that's the paradigm that we're from. I mean, and I'm sure some of the groups that you work with, that they have this idea. I come, so when I started weightlifting, in 1965. Okay, that's the first time I started putting weights over my head. All right, I didn't say when I was 65. I said 1965. Okay,
Right, right.
I had I had one brother who had just gotten home from Vietnam, and I had another brother just about ready to go to Vietnam. It was a war for those of you young people. Uh, and we bought a barbell. And so for me, the reason you train was always for a purpose. Either was to go fight in a war, to play American football, to throw the discus far, or to compete in strength. And if you then jump about 10 years, almost exactly 10 years after I started lifting, Arnold's The Education of a Bodybuilder comes out. In fact, I went to Barnes and Noble the first day it came out, and I bought a copy of it the very first day it came out. Not long after that, the VHS would erupt because Jane Fonda was doing those burn, go for the burn. At the same time, the jogging boom shows up. So what happens is that, especially in America, our paradigm of what it means to exercise, and it's interesting because it goes right back to the 7 deadly sins, but we'll come back to that in just a second. But for some reason, I'm not in shape. So the way to get in shape is to make myself breathe hard, vomit, and sweat. When I throw the disc, like if I throw the discus 245 feet and I'm standing here just like this, I feel great. I'm the world record holder. Now, you're going to have people in the gym, well, you didn't throw up. Well, yeah, because that's not the sport. If vomiting for distance becomes a sport, then we're going to change the way we do things. If measuring the amount of sweat that comes off in the workout happens, well, then I'm going to show up with vials to the gym if that's the competition. But most of us who are from my background, I don't care. Honestly, if we win the Super Bowl and none of my athletes are tired after the game, we still won.
Right.
So the problem we have, and I circle 2 of the deadly sins: sloth or sloth, depending where you're from, and gluttony. Most people, when they put on body fat, well, of course, we can never blame all the beer and pizza in college. We can never blame the fact that the serving's 170 calories in tortilla chips is smaller than the palm of my hand. Okay.
Right.
It's not ultra processed food. It's not the fact that right over here, there's a fast food Mexican restaurant where their 99-cent bean burrito has 490 calories. And I can eat 3 of those from leaving their drive-in to my home because I know that. Okay. None of that's the problem. The problem is because I somehow become a glutton and I'm slothful. And so to undo I'm gonna sweat those fat droplets off me. For any of you who've ever studied biochemistry, just to help you out, sweat does not contain any fat in it. You breathe out in your carbon dioxide most of your fat. That's where it's funny when There are some yoga people who say you breathe out fat, and it always makes me laugh because technically they're right. They're just wrong about the whole other system. So a lot of us has fallen in love with this idea that I can beat my body into submission. But the truth is, Art Devaney famously at a workshop, a woman asked the question, and she got very mad about the answer. How do you lose fat? And he said, don't get fat in the first place. And it really upset her, I understand. But that's the truth. I mean, if, I'm 68 years old and, you know, I Olympic lift 3 days a week and I walk, I'll say 6, honestly. I'd like to say 7, but I blow off a day or, if it's cold, I don't go have big. Honestly, if I could go back in time, in my own case, the 2 things I would try to do is I would never listen to the people who said, I have a condition called bigorexia. I always want to be the biggest, strongest guy in the room, even if it
Bigorexia.
even if it means my heart doesn't work as well. Now,
Right.
now I'm very proud of this. I went to the doctor about a week ago. My resting heart rate's 52. Now,
That's impressive.
yeah, thank you, especially for a strength athlete. My point on all this is that the fitness industry has not served anyone very well. And let me summarize it as I often do. I'm going to break it into 5 quick parts, but there's only 4, but just listen. So I think health, I use Maffetone's old definition, it's the optimal interplay of the human organs. So that's what health is. If you're and it's funny because some people I know who I respect disagree with me. If I go in this afternoon, I feel like I'm very healthy right now because my blood pressure's in a good place, my heart rate's in a good place, my blood profiles are very good. But I go to my doctor and he finds a cancer. Yeah, technically I'm no longer healthy. Okay, and I'm fine with that. Fitness, and some of your listeners won't agree with this, but I use Darwin's definition. It's the ability to do a task, and that's all it is. And if the task is to throw the discus far, and I'm morbidly obese and I can stand up once a year to throw the discus, but I throw it farther than anybody else, I'm the most fit discus thrower. There's 2 other words. The next one is performance, and that's what I specialize in, which is when someone calls your name, you step up and you do something. Okay. There's rules. You probably have to stay in the ring. You have to stay in bounds. If you throw the ball out of bounds, it doesn't count. Rules, performance. Or I'm on Broadway and the curtain opens, a light hits me on the chest, and I better start singing well right there. The next word is longevity. And I'm a big believer in quality over quantity on longevity. I come from people who don't live long, so I'm doing my best. And then there's that 5th word, body composition. And the problem is we've allowed the fitness industry to say that, I've heard bodybuilders say, I just want to be the biggest. I just want to be the biggest corpse. I've literally heard them say that, that's bigorexia 101. The number of fitness and strength athletes who've died too young is uncountable, because of decisions with drugs and other things to improve their performance. But my concern has been for a while is that body composition has been wagging the tail of performance. Okay. No one cares. I tell you one thing, if I'm an NFL quarterback, I don't want physique models as offensive linemen. I want guys who are built like desks with really long arms. I want 5 big desks in front of me that push, people away from me. I don't want guys who are ripped to shreds weighing 141 pounds for a photo shoot. Now, people who are ripped to shreds at 141 for a photo shoot are very nice people, but I don't want them. I want desks in front of me stopping the defensive linemen and blitzing linebackers. So for me, I go back to 1975 and I circle that and I say, this is when the fitness industry and I kind of parted ways. When I first got my first strength coach job, I remember having to talk to a high jumper because he wanted to work on his bench, lat pull down, and curls. Well, high jumpers fight this thing called gravity. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's been around for a while. And if you start putting on, beach muscles as a high jumper, you're actually you're doing the exact. You can't even imagine anything more wrong than to get bigger biceps and pecs as a high jumper, because
Right.
it's that your foot hits the ground, you're supposed to spring up, and every ounce of waste on your everything above your belly button is just getting in the way for you jumping higher. I don't know if I answered your question, but I enjoyed saying all that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Interesting enough. So obviously you said that you see that the exercise really changed at a pivotal point in 1975 for you. So now we're obviously 50 years later.
Exactly 51.
How do you see technology playing a role in advancing coaching methods? And are there any specific tools or systems currently that you've seen, whether it's a wearable, these jump force plates, that the everyday coach should be using to help, I guess, improve their service or improve their client outcomes?
Are you sure you want my answer?
I do.
None.
Okay. Why?
Because they're all crap. See this thing here? It's called,
Yes.
if you're listening, it's called a tape measure. And a tape measure can tell you far more. Obviously, I think the DEXA scan has been illuminating. I would say that. The DEXA scan is pretty special. But, I'm always amazed. Like I watched that Netflix special about that Brian Johnson guy, who's, by the way, he grew up just about right down the road here from me, which just makes me laugh out loud. Do you know anything about this Brian Johnson guy?
Are you talking about the longevity one or the Liver King Brian Johnson?
No, the longevity,
Okay.
To me, they're both guys I wouldn't want to be next to on a plane. I'll just say that. Of course, the don't die guy probably be afraid of diseases I have. With all the measurements he does and stuff, and good for him, because he's spending $2 million a year. But my annual medical visit, I go to the dentist 3 times a year. I go to the eye doctor once a year, and I donate blood to the American Red Cross 5 times a year. I think those visits are far more valuable, and the tape measure. And by the way, I would say the bathroom scale has value, trending value.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. It's like those big. It's like when the CDC or somebody will come out and say, Americans over the age of 50 should keep their waistline here. That's very true in a global thing. The bathroom scale is very good globally, but for the moment, it's not very good. I don't know if you weigh yourself daily, but I can fluctuate about 6 pounds in a few days. And it's, if you're fasting, your body weight better be down. If you just gorge yourself, your body weight probably went up. It's just because of the food in your belly. So I would say, for me, of course, I'm a track and field coach and I'm a strength coach. So I like to measure my throwers by how far they throw. And I like to measure my high jumpers on how high they jump. And we're in the weight room, I like to measure people by how much weight's on the bar. Did we get stronger? And then, of course, with all that, especially in the weight room, enough is enough. But no, I'm not. I've probably bought and thrown away a dozen heart rate monitors and stuff. I just don't. Yeah, and I'm not. If you're using them, great, fine. But spend the money on fruits and berries, and blueberries and strawberries and blackberries. I think I don't. But
what about something like like an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or a Garmin? If we're trying to just get the average person to move more and be accountable to, for example, tracking their steps, right?
Well, my phone has that. I've noticed that when I'm teaching in England, I walk about 6 miles a day. When I'm here in Murray, because we don't have good sidewalks here, I don't walk. I walk about 2 miles a day here. The difference,
Right.
In one country, walking is safe. And in this, where I live, you take your life in your hands if you walk on 9th East over there. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm going to tell you straight up, Christopher, I don't think they have any value at all. You can argue and you can talk to your clients about it, but I don't. It's just more money they spend. Listen, 1 in 20 Americans exercise. One.
Right.
Of the Americans who exercise, probably, and this is from Brad Pilon, but I don't, and it might be true. Tom Plummer says that only 14% of Americans have gym membership, which means 9% of Americans have gym memberships they never use. When you go to a gym, most people, I mean, watch what they do when they get there. They're on their phone the entire time on the treadmill. You know, I can save you guys all a lot of money. We know Consumer Report years ago, the average use of a treadmill in a home is 7.2 times. After that, it becomes a clothes holder. Okay? All that expensive equipment, all that stuff you buy, unless you're using it, it has no value. It's the use of it. How do I know I walk every day? I'm gonna tell you, Christopher, write this down. Because I walk every day. People come over, I got the dog, I've got my friends, I got my girlfriend, and we go for walks. I don't need an expensive piece of machinery to tell me that I walked because I know it. Now, one thing I also do is I keep journals. Oh, by the way, this is the
Barbell and dumbbells.
This is the book that came with that barbell we bought in 1965. So, and that's still smarter than 5% of the stuff I see online. Try not to swear. I'm not a fan of them. I mean, but you're going to have another guest who's going to tell you they're the most important thing in the world. And they're also going to tell you about all these supplements you take. And I'll just be sitting here going, you might as well just take the money. I used to say pour it down the toilet, but instead, folks, I want you to send the money to me. Okay? I'm Dan John. No, sorry.
That's awesome. Transitioning into easy strength has become widely adopted approach in the coaching world. I mean, I myself have been using it. I'm loving it. One of the concepts from the book that I love was, you should get more from the workout than it takes from you, right? Because we're in a culture where, like you said, if you talk about
the Easy Strength book with Pavel, or do you have the newer one?
I read the one with Pavel.
Yeah, so I wrote, so that's Easy Strength Omni book. So that's the updated version, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just let you know. Sorry, I didn't mean that. That's not a selling point, but yeah, so Chris, the idea is this. I lift, well, folks, I lift probably 160 workouts a year, okay? Some years it's 260. Most years about 150, 160 weight workouts, okay? I would put let's stick with the 106. We'll go with the 150. We're coming to the end. People have already failed on their New Year's resolutions. You know that, right? My buddies who work in gyms are already telling me, yeah, the first week, man, and the crowd's already filtered out, most people I know have 3 weight workouts a year. The first Monday of January, the first Wednesday of January, the first Friday of January. We never see them again. But if you can come in and you stack 160 workouts a year, 150 workouts a year, so I keep changing the numbers, over a 10-year period, that's 1,500 workouts. Who's going to be farther ahead? The person who's got 1,500 workouts under their belt or 3? And I'm not being a jerk. I'm just saying the key to easy strength isn't so much today's workout, it's the next day's workout and the days after. And you start to stack and pack those workouts on top of each other so that over a 10-year period, in my case, 40 days, you start breaking your personal records. And the only reason is it's parenting 101, it's teaching 101, it's coaching 101, it's being a student 101. You do what you say you're going to do. And to me, that's the secret to easy strength. I'm amazed when I watch the crap I see online. Talk to any musician about how they got good in the violin and guitar. It, the great violinist wasn't playing around on the accordion for hours and then did 5 minutes of violin. They played the violin. Uh, the best, the best researchers, the best lecturers in the world, they focus on this thing and they become who they say they're going to be. So if you want to, like in my case, my most famous easy strength would be probably when I did incline bench, thick bar deadlift, swings, ab wheel, and it might have been pull-ups. And I don't remember. It might have been suitcase carry. But 5 days a week, I went in the gym and I did two sets of five in the incline. And when it got light, I just slapped more weight on. When that got easy, I slapped more weight on. When that got easy, I slapped more weight on. And one night it was freezing cold. It was a cold January night here in Utah, and it's cold. By myself, no spotter, I broke my lifetime best in the incline bench by 15 pounds, and I got a double with it. By no spotter, freezing cold. Well, how did you do that? I did what I was going to say I was going to do. So for all your listeners, I mean, that's why, I don't know if you've ever heard of easy strength for fat loss, but that's when you add a walk. So 5 seconds, let me give you the whole summary of the whole book. I'll save all your people money. So get a really good night's sleep, drink a lot of coffee, which is easy for me. Drink a lot of coffee, do your easy strength workout, and then go for a half-hour walk. After that, eat fruits, veggies, protein, drink water, do that a couple of times, come back and do that again tomorrow. It was the easiest 35 pounds I've ever lost in my life. It just because for a couple of months, I just did the same thing every single day, and my body responded by dropping off. And I got to tell you, folks, I don't know who you are, what you look like, but it's easy. It's easy to creep body fat on if you live in America. It really is. I am stunned. The other day, I took my grandkids to the mall, and they got a snack. And fortunately, this place we're at, I don't know if you saw, it's on my Instagram, the picture, but they got a regular fries at the place. It had the calorie count. Regular fries is 1,000 calories. I mean,
Crazy.
I don't know I don't know what you weigh, but if you dose in an additional 1,000 calories a day, I don't know how you outrun it. We know that, one of the issues we're having with getting people down is that one of the things we'll say to people is, we need to chop 200 doesn't it sound good? If I told you you're on a fat loss program and I want you to drop 200 to 500 calories a day, no matter who you are, the first thing you do, even if you don't even know what calories are, is like, ooh. But if you're eating 5,000 calories a day, look, true maintenance for you is 2,500. Dropping 500 calories a day will mean you will still be putting body fat on over time.
Right. Right.
So, and the problem is that is it possible for me to eat twice a day the regular size fry at this place we're at? Yeah. That's 2,000 extra calories a day. It's going to be hard to, jog that off or, I don't know, certainly walking it off. You'd have to do the Appalachian Trail. You'd have to, you'd have to walk 20 miles a day for 6 months. Yeah.
On that note, something that I've noticed, and this is from a N=1 experience with easy strength, I find that the harder I work out, the harder I train, the more volume, the more hungry I get, the more I eat, and it's a vicious cycle. So when you're not training at such a high volume, you can actually control your appetite more, and it actually makes maintaining a healthy weight easier. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Well, the research on, I don't know if you see now, if you read one of Wim Hof's books, I'm on the cover and I really like the book. And I'm not ripping on the ice bathing, but I'm answering your question, but just go with me on this, okay? If you have an open buffet, and 50, you have 100 participants, 50 of them ice bath and 50 of them take a sauna. The people leaving the ice bath will eat 10% more calories on a free buffet. We're just measuring how much they eat. We're not telling what to do. 10% more calories. The people who sauna, when they go to the open buffet, now this is I'm playing with the research, so don't quote me too much on this, will eat 10% less of what they normally do in a meal. My point, ice bathing is very stressful. It's very stressful. In a sauna, you're sitting there, you're
Relaxing.
you're smoking your cigar, or whatever, you're drinking your scotch, you're with your denizen of, hot friends, and you're relaxed, or whatever you do in a sauna. Okay. When you do easy strength, you don't send the body into a freak out spiral. If you've ever seen people after a crisis, the Minnesota study proved this too. And of course, the Minnesota study was based on the survivors of the Holocaust, and God bless them. When the American soldiers would free up these concentration camps, very often people would eat until they threw up, because the stress made them just want to undo a year or change, whatever it would be, stress in one meal. So the more relaxed you can be, I've heard both sides of this. Going for a 10-minute walk before a meal is one of the best things you can do for certain things, like spinal health. That's Stu McGill's thing. But walking 10 minutes after a meal is just as good as taking diabetes medicine. And so, wait, 10 minutes is nothing, right? I mean, 10 minutes, but of your stress levels. For those of you listening, I'm turning my hand like I'm a volume control. So you're right. If you're doing workouts where you smash your face against the wall, the body's response is, whatever the hell's going on up there, we have got to prepare for this. And that's why a lot of people go on to these really hard. I mean, what's the rate of success on normal diets? Do you know?
I always say we do not have a weight loss problem in this country. We have a keeping weight off problem. So all diets work, but it's that people can't keep the weight off because after 4 to 6 weeks, they don't have sustainable habits or approach to keep it off long term.
Exactly. So there's always someone who's going to raise their hand. Well, I did it and it worked for me. But that's usually the same person will raise their hand and say, I have an uncle who smoked 2 packs a day and lived to 105.
Right.
It's that, what you said earlier, the N=1 issue. But we are miserably failing with our dietary interventions in the United States. And partially because, I think part of it's stress. And then when we do start to turn the corner on, fat loss happens in the kitchen, no question about that. However, strength training does amazing things to help fat loss happen in the kitchen. Okay, that's an absolute truth. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you try on both sides of that thing, I usually have, but I've got 2 lighters here. If I take that candle and I light it on both ends, and then I take a blowtorch and light it in the middle, it's going to be real hard for your body to not go, I don't know what's going on here. But next time, we're going to prep up next time. We're going to even layer on more fatty tissues. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the interesting concepts that I always talk with my clients about is this concept of a bucket, right? And like all the water you pour into that bucket could be considered stress. What people don't understand is that too much of a good thing, so too much hormetic stress, too much exercise, your bucket's still going to overflow. So I have clients that come in, hey, I'm really stressed out, so let's crush me today. I'm like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should just do some mobility to kind of balance out. And that's kind of one of the things so what is a common mistake? And we're talking about in today's day and age, like coaches now, right? What is one common mistake you see coaches make when trying to deliver results And how do you think they could fix it?
Ah, there's the dose of exercise is of actual. Okay, I'm a strength guy, so I believe the answer to everything is weightlifting. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So the dose of weightlifting that's going to help most clients is much smaller than people think. You're not, and I just wrote a book called The Armor Building Formula. I think it's in this book. Yeah, it is. The amount of exercise I need to maintain what I'm looking like now at age 68 in my chair this day, I lift for about half an hour and I walk for about a half an hour every day. Okay, that's what I do. Okay. For me to get ready for the platform, like if I was going to enter one of those, those before and after transformation programs or something like that, or step on the thing, I would go from 1 hour a day to 10 hours a day. Okay. That includes posing, photo shoots, well, photoshopping, really. In most cases,
Right.
most people online is photoshopping, not training. The tanning, the posing, the junk cardio you throw in because you have to chase every rabbit. So the biggest mistake is trying to get a month's worth of work in that 1 hour private training session. And what you need to do is you need to teach the person appropriate mobility work when they go home, the importance of walking, the importance of drinking water, the importance of, saying no to certain foods. Okay. I think the mistake we try to do is we try to get everything done where honestly, and it makes me happy that you're an Easy Strength fan, but if you were to bring in how interesting this would be. So let's go back to my little hour clock again. So the first 10 minutes would be mobility work. You'd have a 5-minute introduction for everybody. And then everybody walks over and does a push, a pull, a hinge, a loaded carry, and then the ab wheel. And then we all as a group go for a nice walk. You would lose every client you ever had because even though I know that's superior and I've proved it and I've got all those testimonials. I don't waste them on you, but not you. I didn't mean it that way, but I don't want to have to show off or anything. But
Right.
people who do Easy Strength for fat loss are always like, I can't believe, and the quote is always the same, how easy it is. Well, the word easy was sitting there floating there right at the beginning, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So if you get a chance, and I don't like the episode. It's probably the only episode. Well, it's funny as hell, but there's a show called How I Met Your Mother. And there's one episode where they all go join a gym and they get personal trainers. Okay. And it is the worst style of personal trainer. You denigrate your client, you yell at them, you question their manliness, no matter if they're male or female. The first thing the trainer says to the tall guy is, get on the ground, give me 100 push-ups. Day one, first thing out of her mouth. And I just think that's it'd be a great thing to post in your gym as, get that on a loop or whatever you kids do with your internet and your Instagrams and your hippity hoppity music and your rock and roll. Because that is such a good moment because it's the antithesis of everything I believe as a coach.
All right. Final question. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you were designing an optimal program for someone, general population, looking to improve their strength, conditioning, and longevity, and you could only pick 3 movements.
Oh, sure. Easy.
What 3 movements would you pick and why?
In the weight room, overhead press family, something in the overhead press family.
Okay.
Something in the deadlift family or hinge family.
Okay.
So it can be, if snatch, clean, deadlift, kettlebell swing, hip thrust. Boy, man, if I could just get everyone listening just to do military press and hip thrust, I'd be a happy boy. And then either the suitcase carry or the farmer walk. And then drop that bell and keep walking. but that was easy. Christopher, I'm a little disappointed, frankly. That was that was an easy one. Uh,
It sounds like you've been asked that question before.
when Pavel wrote the book, Power to the People, I
Yeah.
told him if instead of using this, he had this weird side press with a barbell. I said, man, if you'd have just done bench press and deadlift as the only two exercises ever, we would never have an additional strength book. We would be done.
Bent press. I think it was the bent press. Yeah, that
No,
what
no. Well, it was that weird. He didn't call it the
yeah.
bench press because the bent press is when you move away from the bar.
Right, right, right.
Side presses. But yeah, okay. So we're both. But if it had been the if it had been the bench press and the deadlift, we'd be done. I wouldn't. I would be selling shoes over at Florsheim or something like that. I wouldn't have a job, man. Because we'd be finished in this field. Everybody would be doing 2 sets of 5 in the bench press 5 days a week, 2 sets of 5 in the deadlift 5 days a week, and but yeah. So that started it. So my basic thought is that you should put things over your head, pick things up off the ground, and carry them for time or distance. That's part of my mission statement. Yeah, but the reason I really like this question, if you don't mind, can I just expand it another?
Please, absolutely.
The very first group I ever joined when I got on the internet. Now, my first blog or whatever you want, website is from 1998. Okay, my boss told me at Columbia I was probably the 5th online instructor of all time. So I've been online a long time. Okay, and I for some reason I fell into this group of women who are Atkins dieters, and even though I wasn't a woman, nor they had a rule that you had to lose 100 pounds before you could join their group. But they allowed me because of my job. And it was interesting to listen to the women. They would say there's only 2 exercises you need to do with weights. And they had 2 separate kinds. It was either press overhead and squat or press overhead and deadlift. That's all they felt. This is 1998. That's all you needed to do to get all the weight workouts you need. And I remember thinking, that's interesting. And then, of course, that just keeps getting relayered into my mind through all these years of working. Now, from there, Christopher, we can talk for hours about taking those 3 ideas that I gave you and then blending it into a football program, into a discus thrower, into a physique competition person. But when in doubt, those are the 3 I go to.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think as powerful as social media has been for helping people just expand their knowledge and get more information, I also think it's thrown a skew at like what the average healthy body looks like. Also, what the average program should look like when you see people doing all this crazy stuff on the internet. Hearing from somebody who has so much experience, hey, these are like really the 3 main things you should be focusing on. I couldn't agree more.
Well, can I just say this? This whole book is a single 110-pound, 50-kilo barbell. For those listening, I'm showing the Sears barbell workout from 1965. And really, the whole book is pick things up off the ground and put them overhead. The great writing from Bosco of the 1950s, Harry Pascal's, pardon me. Pick weights up off the ground, put them overhead. And when you go and watch the Olympic lifters and you're like, those are the bodies I want to have. The one thing that helps my career the most, Chris, is that every 4 years they have a thing called the Olympics, and everyone gets a look at track and field athletes and weightlifters. And for about 2 months, maybe 2 months and an hour and a half after that, people want to hear my stuff. Because when they see the track and field athletes and the Olympic lifters, it's like, yeah, that's the body I want. But then poof, before you know it, some guy, some 20-year-old like, hey, F-bomb, 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 you bunch of F-bombs. Hey, look at me. I'm 20, you want to be ripped listen, if you're 21 and you're not ripped, you're too stupid to be 21, okay? It's easy to be jacked when you're, just barely post-adolescent. When I was in college, the discus thrower, I had such a hard time keeping weight on. I'd lift weights and ab wall would pop out. I mean, yeah, it's easy. It's easy when you're 21. When you're 68, come by my house and sit down with me. We'll have that different chat. We'll have a much different conversation. Okay. Yeah.
So these are the four key takeaways that I had from our conversation. There were so
Oh,
many nuggets in here. One, I love the quote that you said, health is the optimal interplay of the internal organs.
yeah.
One thing I gathered was don't overly obsess about odds and ends or gadgets. Just eat fruits and vegetables. Uh,
Oh, there's this company that wants me to sell their stuff for them. And it's stuff where they desiccate to dry out fruits and vegetables, and then you drink it. It's like, why don't I just eat? Because I'm a lot fuller. Chris, I don't want to throw you off. I feel fuller after I eat some fruits and vegetables than I
of
do
course,
drink a little powder in a drink with fruits and
of
vegetables.
course.
Yeah.
Point three, which is probably my favorite one, sleep, drink a lot of coffee, easy strength, go for a walk, eat fruits, protein, vegetables, drink water, sleep, and repeat.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
and you can buy my book that tells you to do that.
exactly. And then the optimal program, some kind of overhead press, picking something up from the ground and carrying something heavy. So Dan, what is your newest book? What's it called?
Oh, my newest book is this one here. What do I have? Oh yeah. So I write it seems like I write a book every hour and a half. So this is the most popular book I have right now. It's called The Armor Building Formula. And it's basic for those of you into kettlebells, it's this kettlebell workout called the Armor Building Complex and high rep presses. And I got to tell you, I'm the 10,000 swing, kettlebell swing challenge guy. And there's value to that, but I'm amazed at how popular that is. And then this book just came out, but again, these are kettlebell books. This is called the Kettlebell Workout Companion. I was asked to do a workshop on kettlebell workouts. So I wrote a book on it because I'd gotten to like 60 pages of handouts, and I thought, that's that's too much for a staple. So
Yeah.
when in doubt, write a book. Um, but I just finished another one for a workshop I'm doing. This is going to sound strange, my friend, but so people in my family die young. So what I've decided to do is from now on, when I'm going to do a workshop, I used to put the workshop online. If you go to my YouTube site during COVID, I did about probably 10 free workshops. We're talking hour and a half, 2 hour workshops on the things. But as good as I like that, is YouTube gonna be around in 30 years? I don't know. I mean, tr- trust me. I mean, things happen fast. But I think a book will be around a lot longer. You know what I mean? So I'm a little concerned about my legacy. A little, which is
Where can our coaches find you online?
oh yeah. It's got a stupid title, but it's danjohnuniversity.com. But then I'm on Instagram, I'm Coach Dan John. And then on YouTube, I don't know what it is. It's like Dan John Strength Coach or something like that.
We'll try to put them in the
Out of,
link in
out
the
of
show notes.
And if you wouldn't mind, put a link to just put armorbuildingformula.com. If you wouldn't mind, that's that book I was.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. And if people have questions, I answer hundreds of thousands of questions, it seems, a year. So, but I have no issues on follow-up questions or anything like that. Okay.
Awesome. Well, Dan, we did an hour, and I felt like I could have spoken to you for 5 hours. So maybe in the future,
Yeah.
if we could do it again and answer some more questions, but this was really helpful. Again, this is the Strength Coach Collective podcast. And if you guys have any more questions, you can follow us or look for us at strengthcoachcollective.com. Thank you.